How you doing, everybody? It's Wardy here, and I'm so happy and pumped up to get into our latest Mets post-game show as the Mets take down the Minnesota Twins in Game 1 of a 3-game set here to continue this road stand by a final score of 5-1. It was a frigid, cold, and not so comfortable night there in Minneapolis, Minnesota, but that did not change the red-hot Mets from continuing their winning ways, winning this one thanks to a Juan Soto blast. Finally, Juan Soto had the home run heroics. We talked about it pre-game. It finally became a reality. Luisangel Acuna, I've been begging to get consistent reps at second base, and today's yet the latest perfect example of exactly why that is. We're going to break down everything that transpired in this amazing victory, innings 1 through 9, the entire ball game. Key takeaways, including Klay Holmes and what I liked so much about him in this outing and his latest start as he continues to get better. Offensively, Pete Alonso, Mark Vientos, Luisangel Acuna, Juan Soto, Francisco Lindor, step on down and have yourself a day, baby. Let's get into this. Spam those W's in the live show right here, right now to everyone chiming in live on a replay. Thank you guys kindly for joining. Shout out to our amazing sponsors, as always, at SeatGeek that has you covered with all your ticketing needs. Check out SeatGeek by using Wardy's promo code Wardy10. Link down below the description. That way you too will get 10% off your next SeatGeek order for Mets tickets or whatever you guys want to get involved with. I'm amped up. Spam those W's in the chat. So all my replay viewers, let me know your initial reactions in the comments down below, and I want to see you spamming the W's as well, everybody. And folks, you know what time it is. It is time that we let it rip with the one, the only, the WardyNYM post-game jingle. Let's go! Thank you guys so much for the 5 gifted already. Ryan gifting, oh my goodness. Alex with a new membership. Eddie with a new membership. Lewis with a new membership. Dad with a new membership. Thank you guys for the memberships as you first come in. That really means a lot. If you guys would like to become a member here in the WardyNYM post-game show, click the link down below the description. That way you automatically become one. Sign up. There are 3 different types of tiers that you can enter. You get Mets-related emojis, shout-outs from yours truly, and monthly live shows of Q&A sessions, so that way you guys have more of that one-on-one interaction with your guy Wardy here every single month here on the platform, everybody. I want to know your key takeaways, your reactions to this big W, but guys, let's look at this. Let's break it down. Already saw a schmuck in the chat saying that how Juan Soto's home run was meaningless. Oh my goodness, you casual buddy. So now it's bad that Juan Soto hits a home run with runners in scoring position? I swear you guys are going to move the goalpost all year long to make sure it's in your favor to say that Juan Soto just isn't that guy. Even when he does exactly what we need him to do on a frigid night in Minneapolis where he's freezing his ass off, clearly doesn't want to be out there, and yet he had the biggest hit of the day for this Mets team. You guys you're insufferable. You're never going to be happy, and that's fine. Let's get into this, everybody. Shout out Alex, great member. Steve, great member. Stony, great member. PB9, great member, going up the list. Chad O'Neill, great member. How you doing? Daniel, Homemade, how you doing? D-Mac, great member. JR, great member, going up the list. Alberto Soto, great member. Chad, great member. We got my man Seamus, great member. Alberto, how you doing? GSU, I know you hate the jingle, but you still watch the show because you like me for some reason. Nathan, how you doing? David, how you doing? Papa, how you doing? Steve, great member, how you doing? Going up the list. AJ, the schmuck himself, how are you? Happy to have you in here. Mike, how you doing? Michael, how you doing? Going up the list here. James Carroll, great member. Oddville, and thank you guys. Come one, come all. Leo with the $2 holla. Thank you kindly for that, Leo. My man Dave Kaplitz in the chat as well. We're feeling lively. We're feeling good tonight, baby. Let's break down this masterful ball game because Juan Soto finally had his fingerprints on a ball game for the first time in a minute. But it wasn't just Juan Soto, everybody. This game started the best way possible, and I cannot emphasize that enough. I was beyond pumped up to see Luisangel Acuna get the start at second base, one, but be batting ninth secondly. And I broke this down pregame exactly to each and every one of you folks. And it's as follows. Acuna in the ninth spot is brilliant because he's a perfect plate setter for the top of the order. And what did Acuna do today? Got on on base 3 times, doing exactly that and putting the Mets in great position to score runs. Andres, thank you so much for the donation, but Klay can't be a starter, and we got a Soto issue. Exactly. Cue the clowns in the chat. Not you, though, Andres. Thank you so much for the donation. I greatly appreciate that. Let's break down this ball game, everybody, because we got a lot of player takeaways to get into, Wardy's player of the game, and so much more, because it begins in the first that we saw, folks, at second base, that being Lindor getting a second with a leadoff double. Lindor doing the fantastic thing again, which is leading off the best way possible with a gapper to begin this one in Minneapolis, Minnesota. If you guys haven't already, please make sure to smash that like and subscribe button as you first chime in as well. Let me know all your initial reactions as we break down the ball game together with this amazing Mets community, and help us get to 33,000 subscribers for our next short-term goal, because we're giving away a Mets jersey of whatever player you currently want on the roster to one lucky subscriber. We've already given away 2 Juan Soto jerseys and a Juan Soto Mets shirt jersey this year, all for just helping us hit our latest accolades here on the platform. So thank you kindly for that. Acuna is electric. He's beyond electric. They were up 2 when he hit that. That's true, AJ, but you do realize that insurance is a good thing. And if you don't have insurance, for all we know, maybe this would have unraveled on the Mets, and maybe they would have had more pressure on their pitching. Juan Soto hitting that bomb is what made the gap happen in this ball game. Without it, it's a higher pressure cooker of a situation, and who knows how the relief handles things. Even though the relief's been absolutely nails and we know it, adding that home run was exactly what the Mets needed to cap off this ball game. But I digress. Let's continue to break it down together, everybody. We would see Lindor get on with a double. Soto then strikes out, and honestly, one of the not so great at bats we've seen from him. I don't even know why he tried to bunt there, but he considered bunting there. It didn't happen. He strikes out. Alonso then with a walk, and what was a piss poor call by the umpire. That was dotted bottom corner there by Joe Ryan. He deserved that call. He was pissed, and honestly, as a baseball fan, I was mad for him, but as a Mets fan, I was happy. Nemo then with a strikeout, and Vientos would ground out to end things from there. So the Mets runners in scoring position woes continued as we head to the bottom of the first, where Klay Holmes strikes out the side, baby, with 2 on the kick change and 1 with the slider. Klay Holmes was in his bag early in this one. It was a cold, frigid night there, many, but it didn't change the fact that Klay Holmes was absolutely carving up those batters against a lesser Twins lineup that ranked 24th in overall offense per Fangraphs entering tonight's game. In the second, we saw Jesse Winker with a strikeout, Terrence with a strikeout, and Taylor then strikes out. So sadly, right after Klay Holmes goes ahead and strikes out the side, so does Joe Ryan a half inning later. In the bottom of the second, we would see Warner ground out, Correa with a strikeout, and Larnach with a 2-out single, but thankfully France strikes out on the sinker. Beautifully placed pitch there, placed pitch there by Klay to end the inning. In the third, as Klay Holmes already has 5 strikeouts throughout his first 2 innings of work today, clean innings of work, all things considered. We get to the third, where Luisangel Acuna's first at-bat today was a brilliant one. It was a quality walk. That is the plate setter for Lindor, who sadly pops it up in foul territory. Acuna then steals second base promptly, like the dog that he is. Already has, what, 4 stolen bags this year, if I'm not mistaken? I'm so excited to see what Acuna can do throughout the course of the 162. If you guys couldn't tell by now, Chad, thank you so much for the $2 holla. Chad says, Pete keeps on rocking. Alonso continues to be Alonso. We haven't even talked about Pete yet, because we're always talking about him every single night. I finally want to spread the wealth a little bit on other guys performing well. But of course, Alonso had another great game. We're going to talk about him plenty. Don't you guys worry, because Alonso would be exactly how the scoring would open up. Again, Chad, you kind of stole my thunder, but that's okay, baby, because it goes right in hand with after the Soto ground out, and he swung on what was an outside fastball that he showed up. He topped over for a ground out after what was initially stalled at bat. Alonso makes it up and certainly helps out Luisangel Acuna. He drives him in there with a 2-out RBI single, and that gives the Mets their first lead of the ball game, 1-0. In the bottom of the third, Lee would fly out, Vasquez would strike out, and we would see Jalen out as well on Julian on a ground out to end the inning. Darren, thank you so much for the $2 holla. Darren in the chat says, Holmes limiting Twins to 1 run and 5th was key. It was beyond key. A fantastic job by Klay, and we'll get to that final inning here in just a second, because in the fourth, everybody, we saw Joe Ryan with a 1-2-3 inning against this Mets team. In the bottom of the fourth, Byron Buxton strikes out on the sinker, but he struck out 3 times today because Klay Holmes was in his groove. Castro with a ground out, and what was a strong play by Vientos at the hot corner. Love to see that. Wallner with a 2-out triple, and the only reason why it was a triple is because instead of it ricocheting off the wall and right that we saw, it got stuck in that little gap between the bottom of the wall and the actual ground itself. So Soto had to go all the way back to the wall there after thinking that there would be a ricochet, and that allows him to get all the way to third for his second triple of the year for the Twins. Thankfully, no runs would score out of that, as Correa would line out promptly thereafter. We then get to the fifth, everybody, and this is where more of the fun happens. In the fifth, Luisangel Acuna rips an opposite field 1-out double. I am obsessed with this kid. Lindor then with a strikeout and what was a nasty sweeper down and in. Quality at bat that was worked to full count, but it goes in Joe Ryan's favor. Nothing that you could do. Soto then unfortunately gets nothing to get going there, and he, to this point in the ball game, is now 0 for 12 this season with runners in scoring position. Thankfully, that would change the next time he would go to the plate. In the bottom of the fifth, we would see Larnach get on with a walk. Then we see Ty France get on with a hit by pitch right away, and there's 2 on, no out for Klay Holmes. Then to make matters worse, a wild pitch that was more at fault, in my opinion, of Terren's, because he had the one knee down and couldn't make the full catch. It goes out of his glove. That moves runners automatically into scoring position. Runners at second and third, no out. And then Klay is obviously starting to panic after cruising this entire ball game. Oh my God, no! Terrible news, everybody. Brutal news. The Mets are going to need a new center fielder. Jose Siri has a fractured tibia. Oh my God, are you kidding me? Shit. Not ideal. No, come on. Ah. That's brutal. I apologize, everybody. Give me 1 second. I need to change the title quick. Man, does that suck. Not ideal. All right, guys. So as I was just live reacting, going away from breaking down the ball game, I apologize. But as we know, Jose Siri has been in a significant amount of pain the past couple of days after drilling a ball off of his shin on a foul ball. Come to find out, he has a fractured tibia. He's not coming back anytime soon. The Mets are going to now be on the hunt, on the search for a center field option. And I understand he hasn't batted too well so far this year in Pittsburgh, but Alexander Canario would have been a really nice insurance piece to have for this outfield depth right now, as he's playing in Pittsburgh. Now the Mets are going to have to defer to Jose Oscar and Tyrone Taylor, but knowing that Jose Siri is going to be out for a significant period of time, more than likely, I'd imagine that this is going to prompt the Mets to find themselves forced to make a trade, where Harrison Bader finds himself smirking, saying, "You want me back?" So that's not great, everybody. So let's continue breaking down the ball game. And GSU, no, I'm not going to cry. I'm just not happy to see my players I like on my team get hurt. I don't know if you can relate or not. Maybe not, and that's okay. To each their own. But let's get back to breaking down this ball game, and then we'll further expand on Jose Siri and what the Mets can do as now a solution to try to fix that latest injury to the squad. Thankfully, it isn't beyond Jose Siri right now when we look on the injury front, but obviously not ideal to see either, to see someone like him who's known for his defense, great base running, and he has a fractured tibia, not even from playing highlight reel defense or stealing bags, but from a freaking foul ball. Just absolutely brutal. So we'll see what the timeline will be for Jose Siri, but do not expect him back anytime soon. It's a fractured tibia, so I don't see how he's going to be rushed or anything like that. I digress. Let's get back to breaking down this ball game, everybody, because we have a lot of more things to get into here. As we would see there, Correa with the line on the fourth. Then we get to the fifth, and in the fifth, we would see bases loaded for Klay Holmes, as Lee then would get a walk, which would load the bases. Christian Vasquez with his first RBI of the year would come via a sac fly, which would tie the ball game 1-1. And then we would see Vientos gets the key out there as Julian gets on with a fielder's choice. Vientos gets yet a third, however, and then Buxton strikes out yet again, this time with the kick change to strand him. So Klay Holmes, after, again, bases loaded, no out, thankfully limits the damage to just 1 run. I had a fractured tibia 2 months at least. Yeah, not ideal. Not ideal at all, Snags. Thank you for being in here. Great member. Same thing with Mr. Delightful and everyone else. If you guys are first chiming in live on a replay, we're breaking down the latest victory for the Amazons here, as well as the breaking news that Jose Siri has a broken tibia, and he's not going to be coming back anytime soon for this Mets team, which absolutely sucks. Okay, everybody, now let's get to the 6th inning. In the 6th inning, we saw the Polar Bear Pete Alonso record his 800th career hit. Congratulations to Alonso and to his family. That's nothing short of tremendous. SR, thank you so much for the $5 holla. SR says, Nemo back in center, Soto to left, and Marte. No, can't move Soto out of right. He's got to stay in right all year long. I don't want to mess up his defense. I want him to stay comfortable there. Marte is not a guy that really is going to give us defense, so no, I'm not in favor of that. Yes, the Mets may have their hand forced a bit and put Nemo more back in center, but that'll also come with guys like McNeil coming back from injury over the next week or so, as Jeff will get some reps in left field. That's where they'll toy with things. Winker will get more outfield playing time, I'd imagine. I don't foresee Marte to get too much more. Time to call up Gilbert? No. Drew Gilbert needs to continue just building himself back up in the minor leagues. He's looked great so far this year in the minor leagues, but he's hitting really well in Port St. Lucie. So the sample size is important, and the context is even more important. He is not doing it anywhere close to MLB caliber pitching right now. No, the Mets are not going to rush up Drew Gilbert. The immediate call-up is going to be Jose Alzcar. I can pretty much promise you that, barring changes, and then they'll go from there. Acuna can play center field, but I don't see the Mets shifting him there. I think the Mets love Acuna as infield upside. We'll see if that changes over the next couple days, but as of now, I wouldn't be hard-pressed on the thought process behind Acuna getting outfield reps. The Mets are stretching Jet Williams to do that more this year for a reason, and there is a reason why they're not even sniffing the idea of doing it with Acuna, at least up until this point. So once McNeil returns, that'll help lessen the blow for sure on the outfield front, but until then, they're going to have a little bit of a problem, at least for this next week, when it comes to depth outside of Tyrone Taylor, and that's where Jose Alzcar will come into play. But reeling back in here, everybody, as we get into the 6th, Alonso with his 800th career hit. Marky V then drives him in with an opposite field RBI double. That gives the Mets a 2-1 lead, and they threw at Vientos, which was absolutely hilarious. I'm going to show you guys the highlights shortly. Literally threw at his ass, right at. I don't know what they were doing. I don't know if it slipped out of his hand or what, but they were all laughing about it in the dugout after the fact. Terens then, with a fielder's choice, would drive in another run there on an error, and that would make it 3-1 Mets. In the bottom of the 6th, Brazaban then comes in for Klay Holmes, and Klay Holmes' final line, everybody, is as follows. 5 innings of 2 walk, 1 earned run, 8 strikeout, 2 hit ball for a 3.66 ERA so far this season. Klay Holmes was working big time. That kick change was nasty. That sinker was nice. And outside of hitting the slider 1 or 2 times, he was in his groove. If we're going to look at Klay Holmes' arsenal, everybody, this is what he had for us today. The sinker was at 40% of the time today. We saw top it out 96, sitting 94. Change up, 24% of the arsenal for Klay Holmes. Top it out 90, sitting right around 88. Slider, we're looking at 89 miles per hour and sitting right around 87, 13% of the time. Cutter, 8% of the time, topping out 92, sitting 91. Four seam, 8% of the time, topping out 95 and sitting 94. And the sweeper at 7% of the time, topping out 83 and sitting right around 83, everybody. Klay Holmes was absolutely nasty with the kick change. This was far and away the most comfortable I feel like we have seen from him so far this season. And the only thing that I was really hoping for today in our pregame segment that I broke down earlier was I was hoping to see Klay Holmes give us 6 strong innings. Sadly, couldn't give us the 6 innings as everything went awry there in the 5th inning for him, where he had bases loaded and no out. Let's see here. I'm a quick healer, so hopefully something good can come out of it, said Jose Siri regarding his injury. So again, in the case of Siri, hopefully that he's not going to be out long term, obviously. And I'm adding that because I'll talk more on Siri in our video that'll be dropping in the AM, along with plenty of other things, along with us further breaking down here. But guys, I want to hear from you on a scale of 1 to 10. How would you grade Klay Holmes' outing tonight? Because even with 5 innings, I'm giving Klay Holmes a solid 6.5 out of 10. I thought he had complete command of the strike zone today up until the 5th inning, where he was both at fault and had some unfortunate luck on his side with Terens not being able to handle that ball. Because in reality, if Terens didn't mishandle that ball to move both runners into scoring position, Holmes gets out of that inning unscathed potentially for at least 5 scoreless innings. So Klay dropped his ERA today from 4.3 to 3.6. And I'm going with a 6.5 out of 10. I know the length wasn't there, but the 8 strikeouts is notable to me for a guy that had over 10 Ks his last outing. And it feels like Klay Holmes in a normal 7, potentially 8 inning format, if he ever whoever gives us that this year could be an absolute dynamo on the swing and miss. And yes, the context is important. We're playing the Twins. They're not a good offensive team, especially without Royce Lewis right now, and Byron Buxton and Carlos Correa not in a groove the way that they would like to begin the season, but we shouldn't discredit or take away from how comfortable and how good it really felt like it looked that way in the case here of Klay Holmes. Jay Lamar, I know you want more F-bombs. You guys will get F-bombs when they're properly warranted. I'm just not going to be as loose and silly with them as I have been in the past because of exactly what you said. But I appreciate you chiming in, brother. I do, because we got kiddos watching as well, and I have to bear that in mind. So they're naturally going to slip out, but it has to be organic. It can't be one of those things that I'm going out of my way to emphasize purposely for you guys. Peter with a $2 hollow says, Asgar is fine. He did well in spring training. He's perfectly fine as just more of a defensive backup option in center right now, but not a guy that we want to have to rely on for much long-term at all. So as we get back into breaking this one down, everybody, I want to continue to see your grades on Klay Holmes here in the chat as well as in the comments down below from his strong outing, going 5 solid innings for the Mets in this one, because as we then got on to the 7th inning, after we saw Brazo look so nice there in the 6th, working a 1-2-3 with a strikeout on Wallner. I'm loving Huascar Brosman. You guys know that. Him and Max Kranick, I've been beating that drum for months now, and it's absolutely huge to see that he is going to be continuing to be a dynamite, a true, what's the right word I'm looking for? A true weapon in this Mets bullpen. Let's see. Jose Siri says he doesn't believe he'll need surgery for his fractured tibia. That's encouraging news, at least, everybody. So normally when you have a fracture of anything, I'm led to believe that you're going to need surgery right away. But if Siri can heal this without that being the case and just going through rehab, physical rehab, all those kind of things, then so be it. I'm just curious as to how quick Jose Siri will find himself back out there. But it's still a damn shame that the Mets are not going to have him back for an extended period of time still. As we get on now, folks, to the 7th inning, we're going to break down now what we got on the top of the 7th, because in the top of the 7th, Luisangel Acuna gets on second base with an error, and this is after putting the bunt down, and this is what I'm telling you. This is what I keep telling you guys. This is why, for the past week, I've been saying Acuna is just so much he's separating himself so well from the rest, in my opinion, when you look at what his abilities are, both on the base pass, with the bat, defensively. He brings so much to the table that even putting a damn bunt down has the Twins going all silly, and that's how the thrower is an error there to first base. He gets all the way on the bunt to second, and sadly the Mets don't score Acuna here when they actually, I'm an idiot, disregard that. They 100% scored Acuna, because the one and the most important thing that we can't forget about is what the one and only did in this matchup. Juan Soto hits a no-doubter to right. It has a lot of hang time. It's high, it's far, and it is out of here. Juan Soto with his 2nd home run this season, a 2-run towering shot, which would increase the Mets' lead 5-1 at this point in the ballgame. Juan Soto currently sits at a .250 average and 829 OPS on the year. Mind you, Soto has been walked a lot. He entered today's game with just right around a .410 on base percentage, and spoke to the New York Post earlier today that they came out in an article stating how there is certainly a difference in his offensive approach, not having Aaron Judge behind him. And this wasn't a slight on Alonso, but just a reality that obviously going from last year to this year, it's not the exact same approach. A lot of teams are especially doing everything in their power to try to work around Soto, and he's very wary of that, which is why we've seen the increased walks. But we're also wary of is that Juan Soto has tremendous power, and we know that he's a $765 million man because of his ability to not only hit for tremendous contact, get on base at a 400 plus clip, and slug as one of the better sluggers in all Major League Baseball. Soto in a cold, frigid night in Minneapolis had a no-doubter to right, and that should have you very encouraged as a Mets fan. And all the schmucks out there, to all the fair weather fans that have been giving Juan all this crap as if he didn't have the best start to the season in his career and getting on base 11 straight games to begin the season. Juan Soto got on base, but because Buddy didn't do all that much from the Marlins series finale to the entirety of the A's series, we got to crucify him. He's a bum. He's washed. Let's kick him to the curb. Like, it absolutely drives me up a wall how much we're going to have to deal with this, but I understand it comes with the territory. We pride him away from the New York Yankees. Yanks fans have a World Series every single time Juan Soto doesn't have a good day, and I also understand that in case of Juan Soto, with these lofty expectations, you're going to have Mets fans be Mets fans. No different than when we landed, no different than when we brought in Francisco Lindor. And even with all the success that he was having in the 2022 season, it still didn't change the fact that there was a large contingent of Mets fans that were still heavy critics on him and believe that, that We overvalued him via trade when, mind you, it is looking like a pretty nice lopsided trade as Andre Semedes is no longer even in Cleveland, and the prospects haven't done all that much to my knowledge to this point. And you pair that with what Lindor has become over the past couple years for the Mets. This is why you shouldn't write off these guys. It's almost like you're bringing in top talents for a reason, and they have the track record to make you think, you know what, Juan Soto's going to get in a groove. Juan Soto's going to be as advertised. And you want to know what Juan Soto was today, everybody? He was as advertised. Big game for him, 1 for 4 with the home run to right. And when we get Juan at his best, it's going to be games like this, but including 2 walks and a double as well. Maybe going for an opposite field tater this time. But I want to know on a scale 1 to 10, guys, how happy are you to see Juan Soto finally in the home run category after what has been a pretty grueling 2-week stretch for us fans, just wanting to see the one and only actually drive and lift a baseball? We saw him got on base plenty, but since that Astros series in Game 2, Buddy hasn't launched a ball out of the park, nor has he hit a home run even at Citi Field yet, when we know how important that's going to be and how electric that moment's going to be. Rest assured, I can't wait to see it happen, everybody. I want to hear from you. How happy are you to see Juan Soto doing Juan Soto things for this Mets team? As we get on to breaking down this ballgame further, everybody, we're almost done with it. Don't you worry. And then we're going to break down a lot more while answering your comments. Everyone's at a 10. Jay Lamar's at a 20. I love that, baby. 10, 10, 10, 10, 12, 10, 10, 10. Love to see that. At 100, says my holy Kane. He's really, really happy with Juan Soto. I don't blame you, buddy. I don't blame you. And all I got to say is I'm damn excited to see if Juan Soto starts to heat up and get on a tear now after a game like this, or if he, gets walked twice tomorrow and has a single, and that's that, and then we go on from there. But speaking of going on from there, let's break down the remainder of this ballgame, folks, because after Soto hit that home run to give the Mets their 5-1 lead, Nimmo with a double play unfortunately would end it. A great play by Ty France at first, gets the play there at first, throws a second, back to first in time, and that does it as we get to the bottom of the 7th. And in the bottom of the 7th, Larnach with a walk, France with a double play, and thankfully nothing else transpires there in that inning. Huascar Brosman gives the Mets 2 gorgeous innings of work, and Brazos sinker, he threw 55% of the time today, topping out 97 on the gun and sitting right around 96. The fastball 20% of the time, topping out 97, sitting right around 96. Changeup, topping out 90, sitting right around 90 as well, as he threw it 15% of the time, and the cutter at 10% of the time, sitting between 90 to 93. As we get to the 8th inning, Mark Vientos would strike out. Winker would strike out, actually, because he was clocked out there by the clock. He ran out of time, apparently, and it was a 1-2-3 there for the bullpen for Minneapolis and the Twins. As we get to the bottom of the 8th, Terens with a ground out. It was a great play there that we saw, everybody. Terens was the final out of the inning, I should say. Great play by Ty France, which then led us to Reed Garrett that we saw in the bottom of the 8th. And Reed Garrett goes a nice, easy, comfortable 1-2-3 with a couple punchies. Reed threw 40% of the time with the cutter, topped out 92, sat 92, sinker 33%, topped out 97, sat 96, splitty 20%, topped out 89, sat 88, 89, sweeper he threw once at 7% of the arsenal, and that was right around 86 miles per hour. As we then got to the 9th, after the Mets did nothing offensively, Ryan Stanek comes in. He gives up that 1-out single that we saw to Wallner, and then that's all she wrote. Stanek gets a big punchy to end it, and Stanek, everybody, his arsenal, the 4-seam fastball that he threw 74% of the time, touched 99 and sat 97. Absolute dog. Loving the gas. Slider, 22% of the time. Top it out 90, sitting right around 89. And the splitty that he threw once at 90 miles per hour. Folks, the Mets entered tonight's game with still far and away the best team ERA in baseball at 2.30 flat. What we saw after today's game means that the Mets ERA has dropped even lower after another strong 9 innings, allowing just 1 earned run in baseball, and another clean day for this Mets bullpen, who had multiple innings of work. Between 2 from Huascar Brosman, 1 from Reed Garrett, and 1 from Ryan Stanek, the Mets go 4 shutty with the bullpen, and the offense gave just enough from what we needed in a cold, frigid night there in Minneapolis. Alberto, great member of 8 months, says, let's go, guys. Hit that like button. LFGM, you said it, baby. Thank you so much for that. For our 500 concurrent viewers, everybody, please make sure to smash that like and subscribe button as you first chime in. It would really mean a lot. Help us get to 350 plus likes as we wrap up the live show. When we wrap it up, we're not ending the show anytime soon, just for referenced before we close out the live show to our live viewers. That would mean a lot. And to our replay viewers, continue to smash that like and subscribe on as well. And let me know all your key takeaways in the comments down below. Soto, thank you so much. Not Soto, Pat, thank you so much for the $5 haul. But he said Soto plate setter for Alonso or rocket launcher. Both are great ways for him to contribute as long as the rest of the lineup steps up. I wholeheartedly agree. Daniel, my man, great member, says just did the research and he's made it on base every game, including by error or fielder errors. So, including errors, Juan Soto has been on base every single game so far this season for the Mets. Not too shabby, right? Frankie with a $2 haul. Thank you, Frankie. Frankie says, Sub Wardy, who do you say gets caught up for Siri? It'll 1,000% be Jose Azcar as the interim replacement. Then no doubt in my mind on that front, barring changes. But guys, we talked about the one and only Juan Soto and what works so well for him as 2-run tater of a night there to right. But now let's talk about a guy that I need to talk about because I've talked about him every day and I'm going to continue to talk about him every day because he is a difference maker. Folks, can we continue to appreciate the greatness that is Mr. Luisangel Acuna? Can we spend a couple minutes on this? Okay, cool. I really wasn't asking. It was more of I'm telling you that's what we're going to do here because Acuna's my guy. He's looking so good right now, and he's getting better every single game. Mind you, Luisangel Acuna once more started today's game in the 9-hole. He gets a walk to lead things off. He then gets a double. He then gets on with a bunt that gets him to second base and a walk. Just an absolute beauty is Luisangel Acuna today that we saw 2 for 3. Got on base, technically 4 times if I do the math right. I'm not a mathematician, so you guys let me know if I figure that out well or not in the chat down below. And I want to know how you're feeling about Luisangel Acuna, everybody, because we've been talking about this internal debate for a bit now between Acuna and Beatty. Who makes more sense as your consistent guy right now at second base? And no one, in my opinion, makes more sense than Luisangel Acuna. He's playing so good right now that when Jeff McNeil returns over the next week and a half, I better not see both him and Acuna in a situation where Jeff's getting the bulk of the playing time and Acuna is coming in as a late game replacement for the most part. And that shit happens consistently. You might as well send Acuna down because that completely deviates what David Stern says on leaving kids on the bench for them to rot, which is not a good thing. Nor do you want to keep Acuna up here if he's not even going to play his premier position of what he's supposed to be doing with getting some consistent reps at second base while also, again, being utilized with that great defense and base running ability. What I love so much about Acuna, and this is what I said pregame today, I'll say it again, is that with McNeil's return and with the assumption that Beatty is the man who falters and is sent down to AAA, Acuna should still be getting consistent reps against left-handed pitching, especially, and getting some starts against right-handed pitching at second base. What you will then do is have McNeil face predominantly right-handed pitching as a starter at second base, as well as getting reps at left field, either moving Nimmo to center or giving Nimmo an off day or moving him to DH for the day to take a game off of his feet and off his legs, which isn't a terrible idea in the case of Nimmo. Then you're going to really maximize your flexibility with your roster, and it's going to allow proper playing time to both sides. McNeil profiles best as the best utility option in this team right now, and I will stand by that. The same way that I think Acuna absolutely deserves to be here. He's batting just under 260 right now. We're right around a 700 OPS, and he's getting better every single game. This is why. This is further proof of what I was hyping up all off-season long. I got a lot of flack by saying, oh, Wardy, Luisangel Acuna looked really good his first week. They didn't do anything. That's not the entire point of this. The point is that Acuna showed an ability to handle the bigs right away in a pressure cooker situation last season for Francisco Lindor and a playoff race down the stretch for the Mets right away. Ronnie Mauricio in 2023, when he got the call, he made an immediate impact as well. The difference between guys like Acuna and guys like Beatty is that we're actually seeing consistency to a degree in their plate approach as well as their MLB ability defensively. Then you add in the base running. Then you add in stuff like this. Again, just bolting all the way to second on a bunt that he quickly puts down. He's the only guy now on the roster that'll do that. And now that Jose Siri is no longer here for an extended period of time, there's more reason than ever to justify Acuna on this roster because you need the speed. The Mets are not an overly fast club whatsoever, but Acuna separates them. Acuna is what helps be the plate setter. Acuna is the answer, everybody. Let me know, folks, on a scale 1 to 10, how are you feeling about Luisangel Acuna? How hyped up are you so far with him this season? And secondly, what do you hope the Mets do with McNeil's arrival over the next week and a half? I'd greatly love to hear in the chat. Thank you guys kindly for that. And Acuna isn't the only guy offensively I want to talk about in this one. We got a couple more. Now, everybody, let's continue to expand on what is working so great and so well with the polar bear himself and Mr. Pete Alonso. Actually, maybe never mind. I thought I had Alonso set. Well, hold on. Yeah, I do. Okay, I just had the wrong thing clicked. My apologies, folks. Switch this. We're going to keep the same highlights running because it also features like the only Alonso highlight tonight. And that was him driving in Acuna. That's why I had it paired in there. But Pete Alonso had himself another day. And kind of a day that I feel like will get slept on a little bit just because it's not like he had a double or a home run. But Alonso still got on base plenty. On base 4 times. 2 hits. 1 RBI. 2 walks. A 345 average. And over 1,000 OPS on the season for the polar bear and Pete Alonso. That's pretty good, if you ask me. And Alonso still is the leader of the pack, if I'm not mistaken, in OPS out of the National League, or close to. He is just looking so locked in right now. And that hit there to drive in Acuna especially just showed the lack of hesitancy there with runners in scoring position, which is such a stark contrast from the vast majority of the 2024 regular season for Pete. And as I tweeted out earlier on X today, as well, or Xing, however the hell you want to call it now, I put out how this really feels like the best stretch of games I've seen Pete Alonso for the most part. You know, I understand. And by the way, I saw the New York Post back page. I know some people are overreacting to that. Don't buy into it. They're purposely trying to have you react to it because of the fact that it's not Aaron Judge. But if you actually read the quotes, there's nothing alarming. It's just common sense. Pete Alonso, as great as he is, isn't Aaron Judge. When you have a guy batting behind you that has a WRC plus over 100% better than the average batter in baseball as a generational hitter versus just a very good slugger in Alonso, these are apples and oranges, and they shouldn't be viewed as the same because they're not. And Soto knows they're not the same, and that went in hand with his breakdown with the New York Post in that article. I would implore you guys to read it before being reactionary, because what they want is for you guys to obviously click on it because you see the headline and then to read it from there. But that's how they're trying to reel you in, just like anything else, and that's fine. That's the nature of the game in the sports industry, but just sharing some context there so that way you guys maybe aren't overreacting to it. Professional Certified Hater, thank you so much for the $5 Holly, says the fact that there's a debate between Acuna and Beatty shows how much glaze Beatty gets. It is because fans think he's handsome or something. I don't know. Listen, it's because Beatty is a former top prospect of ours. That's where the connection is. And we all see the tools. We all see the ability. In every damn spring training, it feels like he gives us endless examples as to why he deserves to be on this roster. But Beatty just hasn't consistently done it. And because of that reason, he's finding himself on the outside looking in to stay on this roster once McNeil returns back from injury. But in the case of Alonso, everybody, and again, I'll say this once more, between his ability to spread for all fields and to not chase the slider nearly as much down and away, we have a calm, composed plate approach from the polar bear Pete Alonso, and this is up there with the best I've seen, connecting that also with what we see there in 2022 with Alonso, what we also saw to a degree, obviously, in 2019, but that was Juice Baseball rookie year era, so I think there's an asterisk with that. But the polar bear, he continues to dominate and do exactly what is asked and expected of him, which you love to see. Folks, last but not least, one final player spotlight that I want to share with each and every one of you, and then I'm going to answer more of your comments, questions, and concerns before we get out of here. We'll cut things off for people on replay by then, though. Let me pull up now the final player that I want to highlight, and this is a guy that's also gotten a good amount of slander this season for whether we think it's justified or not. And I realize that did I have my highlights saved wrong? I think I did. I'm a schmuck for that. Because I'm just showing Holmes highlights. That's not what I meant to show. Hold on. Okay, well, I'm just gonna run the highlights from yesterday. I thought I had them set up. I guess I don't. I apologize for that, everybody. But Vientos did have himself another very good day today that we saw at the plate. And like yesterday, it's all headlined by ripping a double for an RBI and the gap. And now Vientos, who, mind you, I understand is still struggling offensively. He's still batting a .138 with a .461 OPS, but it's baby steps in the right direction. He's, again, having more quality at bats we're seeing from Mark. And just like what we saw yesterday in that game against the Athletics, he today showed up yet again by this time going the gap. But what I love most about it is that he went in the gap opposite field this time. So Mark spreading for all fields too, which we love to see. Vientos is starting to get more of that offensive output, which I'm not complaining about whatsoever. And I think in the case of Mark, this is just about confidence and reinstilling that and rebuilding that this season. And I hated the fact that we had so many people just writing him off right away throughout a bad first week or so, when that just isn't how things usually go with Vientos. Like, we shouldn't be writing the kid off after a bad first week and a half or two. It's almost like he proved his worth last year, so we as fans should give him a leash to a degree and not be as overreactionary. Say, oh my goodness, Mark Vientos can't even handle third base. Like, buddy, shut up. Were you here at all last year? Did you pay attention? I know that he's not a dynamo defensively, and I know that Vientos is obviously going to have his ebbs and flows of the 162 this year. But the notion that he was ever going to be a player that we just simply can't play anymore because of his early struggles was nothing short of idiotic. So, Mark Vientos, thank you so much for continuing to try to hush the doubters one by one as these games continue, this time with another key RBI double to increase the Mets' lead in this matchup. Guys, I want to know, how are we feeling about Marky V, Swaggy V, Daddy V? Pause in the chat and the comments down below, as Vientos now has RBIs in back-to-back games for, I believe, the first time this season. Now, everybody, let's get back to the main slide here for all my replay viewers. I'm going to cut things off now, and that just means that I'm going to continue the live show, more of a Q&A segment, getting all your questions, comments, and concerns, and breaking down more about this ball game. But all my replay viewers, please let me know again your key takeaways from this latest amazing Mets victory by a final score of 5-1 in the chat down below. That'd be greatly appreciated, everybody. Thank you so much for that. For everyone in the live show, let's continue breaking down the latest in Mets land. And to all my replay viewers, this is where we're cutting things off.